Namaste and welcome to hands-on workshop for data structures in Python. In the previous lesson, we understood what are the different data structures, what are the pros and cons, how every next data structure try to address some disadvantage or some con with the previous data structure. Either it could be in terms of searching, sorting, or even adding elements or removing elements from that data structure. So based on these attributes, whether it's immutable or immutable, whether it is fast or slow, and what is the overloads that comes with it, what are the capabilities in terms of how fastly it can search, with all these various aspects, as an engineer or as a developer, you have to make a right choice. So here is a automated nodes that I have generated, and this is a very complete list of data structures that are present in Python. So as I said, you can see here that the default data structures, where the array is something that was implemented little later. Originally the developer of the Python was of an opinion to not have array, and for a very long time it was only the list, which was a hybrid implementation of list and array, which generally now in Java or C# we call it as array list, was the default array that was used. And in the list it is called as ordered collection, so which is where it is very sequential. The only thing in case of list is it is mutable. It means you can add, remove elements to it, whereas in case of tuple it is not, it is immutable, you cannot change the values. Okay. And the next one is, you can also see something called built-in. What does it mean? Built-in, yes and no. And for array you can see it is not a built-in, it is something that is imported, it is something that is added separately. So wherever you see no here, for all of this you have to import, you have to write an import statement to reference that code, reference that implementation. Wherever it is saying built-in, it is, these are the default data structures that comes with your Python interpreter. You don't have to import anything, your interpreter knows where to find these data structures in the code. So the next one is tuple, where it is immutable and it's an ordered collection. Now what is a set? So set is, it is mutable and it is built in and it is unordered unique items. Please note this word, which is super important, which is unique. If you have set of items and you want to find the unique items in that, then you can use a set and keep adding all the items to the set. And if there is a duplicate, what it will do, it will not add it. Let's say I throw a simple interview question for you, that there are set of elements, you find how many unique elements are there. So in Python it is hardly 2 lines of code. You add those elements to a set and you count how many elements are in the set. So in 2 lines you can find it, right? Because if you try to add a duplicate element, it will not take it, it will basically still keep a single copy. Then frozen set, as you know that set is mutable, you can change the values. Frozen set is immutable, so once it is done you cannot change it. Then what is the dictionary? Dictionary is a key value pair, like I mentioned earlier. So in the theory part, right? So key could be your employee ID, the student ID, or combination of values, and then you have the data, and it comes with ability to do the searching very fast. That's the dictionary. Of course, string is an important data structure where a lot of the data processing in any software, I mean in any program, you use a lot of strings, and here the strings are, they are not mutable. This is very important. In language like C, Java, C++, strings are mutable. You can change those values. And if you explicitly want to declare a string which you don't want developers to change, then you have a keyword called constant. So you use that const keyword so that you cannot change it, right? By default, strings here are mutable. Why? Because of thread safety. Since you cannot modify them, then every time you touch it, a new string get created at a new location and you get a modified string. So, but it also helps in making the code highly parallel in execution, support multi-threading, so that you don't have those challenges. then this array is an not a built-in data type. It is basically additionally added, and it is modifiable. You can change it as well. So then you have collections like queue, then heap, then counter, and default dictionary. So there are these additional data structures which probably we can learn later. In this coding workshop, we'll focus on these, some of these built-in data types, and I will show to you how to declare them, how to add values to them, how to search values in them. And this notes will be our guide to do this all exercises. So let's go ahead and see how a list is created first. So the first one that we are seeing is list, which is internally an array list. Okay, it is internally an array list, and one of the best way to learn all these data structures definitely is you create them, you add values, and then you debug the code, and you go to debugger and add these values to watch and see how they are being stored. So what is the syntax for the list? So let's say you have students is equal to, you write these lists in a square bracket. If you are learning, if you have already learned languages like C and Java, you know that you write arrays in the square braces, right? So since you write these in square braces, here the list is also using the same. Now inside this, I can have a student name like this, like this. So what it would do, it would create a student name like this. And then let's say we create something like employee equal to like this. So this is how you do declare. So this is the name of the, what is this? This is the name of the variable, and this is the data. And if you declare like this, what does it mean? This is an empty list. Empty list. Okay. Now can I add values to it? You just have to say students dot, then append. So why I taught you object oriented programming is because this is the most important reason why I introduced oops concept before I explain data structure. Is this is an object, the list is the class, and what you did here is you created an object of type list. So now to call any function in that, what you have to do, you have to say object name dot, and when you said that, you see this append function, which is a public function, and in that append function you can pass another name here, right? So you can add another name like this. So Santosh is already there. We can add another name like this. So how to see what are the functions inside this? You see append function, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse. So let's say you want to see this count, right? So what does it do? Returns number of occurrences of a value. Let's say I want to count how many Maheshs are here. So it can return me that, right? So what I'll do, I'll print that. I'll print how many Maheshs are there. So to make sure that, number of Maheshs in the class. So this is how it will help. It will help you to, okay. Okay, this was not closed. Hold on. Or else the best way would be to get this count and then add it here. Just 1 second. I'll say count is equal to students count Mahesh, and then we will print this count variable here. Okay. And let's see if I missed anything here. So it takes string as a value and you get back an integer. Okay, I know what is the mistake. The mistake is that I have not put the quotes here. Okay. So these are the functions. This is how you call them. Okay. Now there are some private attributes as well. What are those? There are these underscore ones, right? Underscore. You will see a lot of these underscore functions in this. So any modern integrated development environment will tell you all of this, will give you all of this. Then there is also a function here called reverse. Reverse remove. Let's say I want to remove, right? I want to remove Mahesh. Then it will remove that value. So how to see this all documentation is you just hover on that, it will say, okay, it will going to remove. Removes the first occurrence of the value. There are so many data structures with so many methods. Humanly, it is impossible to remember everything. Okay. And I don't recommend you sit and take a printout and start memorizing all those functions. It is humanly impossible. As an engineer, you need to know that there are this kind of data structures and there are these kind of operations like add, remove, search, sort. Okay. And whenever you're writing the code, you just have to go there and say dot and it will show you the list anyway like this. When you say dot, then you search something like delete. Okay, delete is probably not there. Then you say remove. Okay, delete is remove in this case. And this will vary from Java to Python to C++. Those function names will vary, right? And you don't have to remove and you just go there and hover on this. It will tell you the syntax. Okay. Now, however, for your interview, you need to know the syntax and you need to know that method name. The reason is in many companies, when you write the code, they expect you to write the code that will compile, that will work. So that is the reason, whatever language you choose as your interview language, you need to remember the syntax, which you can write on you can write the code on a white paper or whiteboard, and if somebody or you yourself type it on a compiler and on the editor and run it, it should run, right? So choose one language and you code and practice in that language, and as you code and practice in that language, your brain will naturally remember those things. You don't have to make an effort to remember it. But if you're flipping your language for the interview, sometime you're giving interview in C, sometime you're giving Python, sometime you're giving Java, and let's say you have not used that language in your day-to-day work in the office, then it will be a problem. In my case, I used to give interviews in C first. I used to give interviews in C language. But when I joined Microsoft, I used to wrote most of my code in C sharp. So then I flipped to C sharp because I was writing code in C sharp, right? So like that, you choose one language where you can remember those things naturally by writing enough code. You don't have to sit and memorize it. So in this case, the remove function is where it can remove an item like this, and then you can finally print students like this. Okay. So now for the list, I am going very deeper in terms of creating it, adding it, removing it, all those operations, and I would like to debug and show it as well, so that you develop an understanding. So the best way to learn data structure is you write some code, then you start debugging, and then you go and see what happens in the watch. So now this is created, right? So take this and put it in a watch and let's see what it is. So internally, it has created this data structure where all these elements in whatever order you have written, it has maintained that order. You can see Mahesh, Sangeeta, Amit and Santosh. It has maintained that order. And it also has a length function which is saying that you have 4 items in this. Okay. And what happens if I write it this way, where I will say students and 0. 0 is the index, right? So what should come? Mahesh, right? Now, what if I change this to 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4? Mahesh is at 0, Sangeeta is at 1, Amit is at 2 and Santosh is at 3, but I am putting index 4. In case of languages like say Java and C++, C sharp, you will get an error which is called array index out of bond. But here, let's see what happens. Here also you get an error. What is the error? List index out of range. Okay. And in C language, This does not happen. So people who are learning C, you should try it and see what happens in C. Now, instead of 0, I will put -1. Let's see what happens. This is very strange. I was expecting it to give index, but it did not. What happened? So at 0, it is Mahesh. Okay, I'll show it to you. At 0, it is showing Mahesh. But when I say -1, it is saying Santosh. So what happened? It went back to the last element. So does that mean that if I say -2, it will go to Amit? Let's see. I don't know. -2. Yeah, it went to Amit. So this is something very unique, unique here with Python. But if I give anything more than this index, then it will throw an error. So how are these organized? You have all these where you can refer them by index, and it is stored still like a list. Now, do you see that I declared this list employee, and what is with special with employee? There are no elements in it. So let's see how in memory it is being employee. So it is empty. The length would be 0. So you can declare a list like this. Now I want to show you the append operations. Okay. So append operations, what I'll do is I'll delete all this that I had added here. So now we only have this. Now see where would Ram get appended. So Ram got appended where? After Santosh. Okay. Now another thing, I'm invoking another function. So can we go inside this function? Let's give it a try. No. So this is all built-in function. Even if I say enter inside, we are not able to go. There is a way to do it where you install those debug symbols, copy that code. There is a way to debug even that as well, but that will not cover right now. So here what happened? So count is equal to how much? 1, because how many Maheshes are there here? Only 1. So that count is 1. And if you had not learned functions, that the return value, if you had not learnt object, if you had not learnt how to invoke the methods of an object, then you would not make any sense of this. It would all look like, okay, I have to write like this because Mahesh is saying me to write like this and run it. So what is student here? It's object. What is a count here? It's a function in that class, right? Function in that list class. And what is the input to the function? It is Mahesh. What is the return value from here? The return value is integer that we are capturing here. And then we print saying number of Maheshes in the class is 1. Okay. Now I am performing a remove operation that you can see here, that automatically how this array get executed. For that, to demonstrate, what I'll do is students of 0, I will have Mahesh, and then I'm going to remove Mahesh here. Please observe the call stack. Please observe the watch here and see what happens. So what happened? Automatically Mahesh got removed, and 0th location, the Sangeeta came to this 0th location. Amit came to first location. So you could see that suddenly they shifted, right? So you can perform all these operations of add and remove in this list. And how do you print the elements in the list? That is the next part. So this is the print here is so powerful that you can just give that collection of students, that list of students, and it will print all of them. So you can see that it printed all the elements in that list in the square braces. So the square braces indicate that this is an list. Okay. So let's go and see what do we have next. So before that, yeah, so these are the way here it's only showing the syntax of declaration. Okay, so I'll skip this, but we will go ahead with this table, and then we'll go ahead with these operations here. Okay, so this is a detailed explanation, so we'll refer this one for our notes, and we will come back to this little later. But for now, let's focus on coding this, right? So we covered, there is an append, there is an extend, there is an insert, pop, remove, sort, reverse. All these functions are there. So I will show you another function. Let's say students dot sort. So what does sort function has? It did not take anything, and there is a reverse bool. By default, it is false. Okay. So in the function overloading section of the video, I covered where I said you can create function overloading in Python by setting default values. If you set default values like this, even if you don't pass it, it will take that as a value. So it behaves like as if there are multiple functions. Okay. So now I'll say sort, and after sorting, let's print it. Print students and run this code. So you see that it was Sangeeta, Amit, Santosh and Ram, and now it got sorted in ascending order: Amit, Ram, Sangeeta and Santosh alphabetically. But however, if you sort it again, let's say you want to sort it in a descending order, then you have to say reverse is equal to true. Reverse is equal to true. Okay. So let's run it. And then print it. Now it's very interesting. So initially it was like this. Then we sorted it in ascending order. So it became Amit, Ram, Sangeeta and Santosh. And then we did the reverse. Again we sorted in a reverse order. So what happened? Santosh, Sangeeta and Ram and Amit. Because S comes before R, right? And whenever the first letters are same, it will compare the second letter. So it compared A and A. They are also same. Then third letter are also same between Santosh and Sangeeta, N and N. Then finally there is a T and then there is a G. So since it is descending order, Santosh came first and Sangeeta came second. Okay. So this is how you can declare a data structure, invoke the functions in that and explore the functions in that. As you write software, as you do projects, please make sure that you are using these data structures and using these functions and get familiarized with these functions. They will help you save a lot of time. Why will you implement sort function if it is already there? Why will you implement search function which if it is already there, right? So this is the importance of learning data structures. Now, there are other methods here like remove, then insert and pop. I would like you to try them and read documentation and see what do they do. Now let's move on to our next data structure called tuple. So tuple is something where it is immutable, means you cannot change it, and it uses hash table and then used as a dictionary keys. It means for faster searching. So say when you declare a tuple like this, you can quickly search, we can quickly find is what it is saying. Let me do one thing. I'll declare it here and then see. So this one, let's rename this file as list. Okay. Let's rename this to list. Now I'll add another file here called tuple.py. So what is the syntax? What is the syntax for tuple? You have to declare it in the square braces. Let's say years is equal to 2000, 2001, 1998, 1600, 2025. Now let's print years. Now what you should do, you should just say years dot. Now again see what are the methods here. There is one method. What is the method called count? So count any return number of occurrences of a value. So let's say I have added more 2000 here. So I'll say count 2000 and I'll get the count. Okay, and then I would print it here. Print okay. What are the other methods? Not count, sorry. Years. Years dot. There is an index which will give index. Can I add the value to it, right? Let's see. Years dot add. So there is a private method called add. Okay, I'll call that and see. So I'll just add 10 here and see what happens. Okay. Then years dot underscore underscore remove is not there. Is sort there? No. Okay. Then how do I access this value? Let's say print and years of 0. Okay. So let's see if this works. How to access that individual value. So set a breakpoint here again. Start debugging. Go and clear your watch. Years. So now you can see that it got declared here and you are able to see these values. So take this and add it to the watch. As you learned that you have this and these are again stored from an index of like say 0, 1, 2 and there is a length. So what is the print function doing? Did you notice that earlier when we did a print for list it used the square braces, now it's using these round braces. Okay. Now what is the count function do? It will return the occurrences of 2000. How many 2000 are there? There are 2. Okay. So that we printed here. Now I'm calling an private function. Why is it a private function? Because there are 2 underscores. Now what is it saying? It's saying can only concatenate a tuple to a tuple and not an int. So this private function is saying you can append 2 tuples and not a value. Okay, that's interesting. Let's say years underscore new is equal to 10 comma 20. So we created one more new tuple. Let's pass that here as an input and see if it works. Set a breakpoint, run it. Okay. Yes, it works. How? You can see that years had this and then we are appending the new tuple which is 10 and 20 to this years. However, I do not see that being added to this list. So let's read the documentation. What does this say? So first of all, we are not supposed to use it because it's an underscore function, and it said initially it only accepts the tuple, but I do not see that it changed anything. Okay, so we are digressing from what we want to know. Anyway, we are not supposed to call it. So what I'll do is I'll skip this as a homework. You go and read more about this function. Okay, so let's see how to access the values, right? Access the values where you are saying years of 0. Can we refer it like this is what I want to see. So let's run it. Okay. So in the watch you can go and see, right? In the watch you can say years of 0. Okay. Can we also say it in the round braces like this? No, type error. So you have to still use the square braces to reference the values like you do for the list. So in terms of declaration, it is still these round braces, but in terms of access, you have to still use these square braces for the tuple. So what is the difference? The only thing it says is this immutable. Why it is immutable? There is no append option only. You saw it, right? There was no append function itself. So you will have list of things where you can search and probably it searches it faster. That's why it's saying it's hashable, right? Oh, no, sorry. My bad. Hashable is not that. It does not mean that. Hashable means you can use this as a key in a dictionary. A tuple, let's say you have a tuple where you have name, first name and last name. Okay. Tuple has first name and last name. So this entire tuple can be used as a key in a dictionary. That's what the hashable mean. It can be used as the keys in the dictionary. Now coming to the set. So how is set done? Set is done with this curly braces, and you can again add and remove items here. So there are functions like add, remove, union, intersection, and differences. Now all of you have studied sets in your high school or in your you know secondary education, right? So sets as a mathematical concepts, whatever you have as an union, intersection, all of that is exactly same. There is no difference. It is just that this data structures is empowering you to keep values and organize it as a set and perform those operations, perform those set operations. So let's go ahead and declare a set. What I'll do is I'll create a new file here for sets. So how to declare a set? Students on trial. Okay. So you use curly braces. We'll say Ram, Sham, Radha, Mahesh, and Magesh. Students on trial, which means they are, let's say, students with trial course. Okay. Then students who students bought the course. These are the students who bought the course. So I'm creating set of students who bought the course. Radha and Magesh. Okay, this is the set number 2. Now there can be another set where you say students who are showed interest. So these are the students who have showed the interest. They have not bought it, but they have showed the interest. So that could be Ram and Sham and Radha. Now I am trying to tell you an example of a business case scenario where set can be used for data analysis. See, you might have heard this. Python has become famous for data analysis, and it's very popular. If you want to become a data analyst, you should learn Python. So I'm giving you a small demonstration of how data analysis can be done with Python. Okay. What did we do? We declared 3 sets with this data. What is the data? Students who are watching our trial courses, students who bought the course, and students who have showed the interest. Okay. Now I want to find, so once you have a data which is organized into these categories, now set operations can be very handy. So I have a notes here which is auto generated, where based on the business scenario you can perform some of these operations. Let's say you want to find all the students who tried it but did not buy, right? People who have tried the course and they haven't bought it. So in this particular case, what you will do, you will take the students who have taken a trial and subtract that with who did not buy. So you have the list of people who bought the course. So you subtract that with this. So these are the people you can say you can target one. So you want to reach out to these students and see if they are interested. So this could be one of the scenario. Okay. So now when I run this code, the output that I see is Sham, Mahesh, and Ram. So Sham, Mahesh, and Ram, these are the people who have tried our course but they haven't yet bought it. Okay. The next one, people who bought it but did not take the trial. This is interesting because we want to find out what motivated them to buy the course. Okay. I'll say just talk to. We talk to the students and figure out what worked, who bought the course. So people who bought the course, these are the people who bought the course. Okay. And they did not take a trial. It's the reverse of what we did above. Okay. So that is talk to. Now, when you run this, what is the output that you're getting? You're getting output as set because nobody is like that. There is nobody who bought the course with and they have not taken the trial. And what is the third one? The third one is who tried and also showed the interest. So this is what is an intersection is, where you want to see if these people would be interested to try out your course. So who tried and also showed interest. Who tried and also showed interest. So you can say probably sales list. So you want to, so people who tried and intersection, people who showed the interest. So this probably is your sales list, and you run the code. So probably our sales team should talk to Ram, Radha and Sham. Most likely some of them may buy our course, right? So this notes has all these details, and I'm sure since you learned set operations in your high school, you'll be able to understand them clearly. But this is how you declare a set. You declare a set in curly braces like this. It need not be string, it could be numbers too. And this is how you perform these operations like union, intersection and subtraction. Okay. With this, let's move on to our next data structure. So there is a variation of this which is frozen set, which is where it says that you cannot add the value to it like this, and that will cause an error. But however, here in the set, I did not see the add method. Oh, there is an add method. Sorry. Okay. So this is how you add the list. So let's say showed interest is equal to, I'll say Ganesh, and let's run it. Okay, it's able to add. So you do have support for the add method. I don't know how I missed it. So now you can modify it. It means you can modify it, right? But what if I add multiple Ganeshas? What happens? Let's see. And set a breakpoint here and debug it. And go to student who showed interest in the watch. And how many Ganeshas are there? You can see that there is only one Ganesh. So this is the unique thing about it. In case of list, if you do it, it will have as many Ganeshas that you added. So please note, in sets, it is unique. Even though I added Ganesh 3 times, in memory there was only one. If you add duplicate elements, it will keep only one copy. So that is the unique thing about the set. Now, since this can be modified, there is a data structure which is saying if you declare it as a frozen set, it won't allow you to add the elements. Okay. Now we come to an important data structure called dictionary, which get used very, very widely in DSA problems. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a file to try out the exercises for dictionary. Now, how do you declare a dictionary? So dictionary as a data structure, it again is using curly braces like sets. The only difference is here you have a key and a value. So the key here is name and the value is Alice. Then the key here is grade and you have this as a value. So here, this is wrong example. It may confuse students. The right one would be like having some ID and then name, an ID and then name. So I will declare the student dictionary in a different way in our example. Let's see it. So how to do it? You can say students, then open the curly brace and you write ID as 1 and then colon and you write name Mahesh. Then you put a comma. Then the next one, let's say ID is 2 and then colon and then Ram, right? So the values will go in double quotes and there is a colon in between and each value is separated by a comma like this. Okay. And then this is 2. Then 3 colon Sham. Okay. Now let's perform some operations on it. So here you have get. What are the functions? You have so many functions here. Clear, copy, from key, get, items, keys, pop, update, values, right? So there are so many methods here. And we can also see in, like, say, other languages, you can refer it with just the key. So here you can say get. So it is asking return the value for the key. Let's say our value for the key is 3, and let's see what does this return, right? So value returned is equal to students dot get 3, and then print this value. So let's debug it and see what happens. So as you declared students in memory, you have a key 1 and value 2. So you can clearly see how it is getting organized. And can I refer it with index? Something we should try. So let's say students and index 0. So it says that it gives the error. Can I say students 1? No. Okay. Instead of that, I will say students. Now this is super important. Please observe. I will give this key. No, so this is also not working. So in case of Python, the syntax is different. So let's do something like this, which is students dot get 3, and then you get nothing. So let's say students, what is the value that it returned here? It said none. That is because I made a mistake. The mistake is here the key that I passed is an string, and the value that I passed here to the function is an integer. There is a mismatch. So if it has to be this way. Now let's see it. Now the value that is returned is Sham, because at third location you have this. So what are the ways in which you can insert the values into the dictionary again? Clear, get, items, key, pop, update values. I see that these are the only methods. Add is not there, append is not there. Let's go and see how to perform add operations. Perform add and remove on dictionaries in Python. Okay, so this is the syntax. This is the syntax where in the square braces you give the key and you directly write the value. Okay, and if you want to remove, you have to use update method. You can also use update. Remove items. Remove the item with specific key and value. So for that you can directly say pop. Okay, so pop is the method for removing, and it removes the item with specified key and returns that value. Okay, and is there a delete? Or delete, or you can directly say delete, removes the key value pair itself. Okay, so what is the first last inserted key value pair? Okay, pop item will do last inserted. Otherwise you can also say remove in terms of delete that course. So here let's try to add an element with that syntax. Okay, so in the dictionary I want to add, so you have to say like this and then give the key. The key is 4 and the value is a new name called, okay, Radha. So after this, let's print the dictionary and see. So now you can see that even the Radha got added here. And then from there you perform pop operation. So here it is asking remove specified key and return the corresponding value. Let's say I would like to remove specified key, which is 1. Okay, it returns the value. We probably are not capturing it, but let's see that if the delete operation works as expected. Again I made a mistake. I passed an integer, so I have to pass a string. So you can clearly see in the second list that value has disappeared. Okay, so you may be wondering why we need key and value, and when we already had list and already had set, why is that this being used? This is used because in real world what happens is you have large set of data and you want to do a quick lookup, and generally there is some unique value for each of that entity. It could be student IDs, employee ID, or different aspects. So dictionaries have one of the fastest way to look up that data, as I explained and showed a very simplified view of how dictionaries work, right? So here, whenever I'm doing any operation like searching for it or removing it, dictionaries can perform this at a very higher speeds. Okay, as you understand time complexity, you will know more details about it. So in that way, the dictionaries are very efficient and faster. So that is how the dictionaries get used. So with this, let's see what is our next data structure. You have string, which we have already covered in our earlier lessons, how we declare string and how we use it. But only thing you have to remember is strings are, in this case, immutable. So Python won't allow you to change those strings. But however, you still have some of these functions that you may be interested in. So let's do one thing, because strings get widely used in programming and interview questions. So I'll say str.py and declare a string here. So what kind of functions it has, right? So strings have, you declare that object and you go here and press dot. You see capitalize, center, count, encode, ends with expand, find, format, index, is alpha, is ASCII, is decimal, is digit. In fact, there are companies where they ask you to implement these functions by yourself. All these standard library functions like is digit, is alphabet, is lower, is upper, all these functions, they ask you to write it by yourself as an interview question. So all these examples you can try it yourself, and this would be very fairly simple, like where say string dot to upper. So this would return a copy of a string converted to uppercase. It will not change this one only. Let's call it string 1 and let's call it string 2. Okay, and what it would do, it would return the upper, and here let's print both. Print string 1 and print string 2. So what this would do, this would convert Python into uppercase. All characters are converted to uppercase, but it will not do in memory update. It will always return back a newly allocated string. Let's do one thing. Let's try to change the string and see what happens. I'm changing string 1 to Java. Okay, and then I'm trying to print it. This is surprise, right? We all have been reading string is immutable, you cannot change, but now I have changed the string 1 from Python to Java. So how did this work? And this is where you can debug and see what is happening. Oops. Okay, we need to set a breakpoint in the first line. Let's start again. So you have a string here. Okay, so in the watch I'm going to add it. Let's run the code. Okay, so this string here, what you see, for this the memory has been allocated and this string is present in memory, and then string 2 came along, that got declared. Then we of course printed string 1 and string 2. Now when I change string 1, what is happening? This got updated. So there is a disconnect between theory and in the actual code. Actually there is no disconnect, it is just a you can say we are getting blinded. We are getting blinded because internally what Python interpreter did is it allocated the brand new memory location in which it changed, it allocated the space, it copied the text Java, and reference to that address got set to this variable string 1. The string 1 here is just a variable, the variable which points to a memory location. And when Python interpreter says strings are immutable, what it is saying is that memory where Python was written, you cannot go and change that to something else. So it allocated new memory, it wrote Java there, and that allocated memory's address is what is being held by this variable. Whereas in case of languages like C, C++, Java, you can go ahead and change that memory itself. The variable address won't change. That is the difference between being mutable versus immutable. In C, Python, Java, you can very well go and change this Python, what is being allocated in memory, to Java. Whereas in in those languages, in Python, you cannot do it. So this is the demonstration. So don't get confused that we said it is immutable, whereas we could easily change it here. And if you try to do something like, let me also show you, right? Let me also show you how to print it with certain index. So let's say print string 1 and 0 and see what happens. Okay. Let's set a breakpoint here. So now I'm trying to print the character at 0th index. It did work. So internally you can reference individual character by an index. The first one starts with 0, 1, 2, like that. So how many characters are there? Like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? What if I string 1, I did 6? What happens? So it says index error, index out of range. What if I did string 1, 5? So it showed the last character, which is n. What if I do string 1 minus 1? It showed again n. So the positive value cannot go out of index, but negative values can go out of index, and it will circle back to the end. So let's say I want to go to the last character. I have to say -1, so it will go to the last character if you don't know the length. Okay. Now there is something we'll try, which is string 1 of 0, and we are forcibly trying to set it to A and see what happens. You get an error, syntax error. Let's try that here in the code. So take this and try to set a value and see what happens. So try to set it to A. Okay. Debug it. Go here and run it. So what is that Python saying? str object does not support item assignment. Str object does not support item. So because here we were trying to modify that memory location, we are not trying to change the variable. We are trying to change the value. We are trying to update that value in that memory location, right? So that is why the Python interpreter is saying will not allow this. Okay. So with this, I think we all got a good glimpse of various data structures. See this collection, heap, queue, and all. These are all custom data types that we can cover in some other lesson. And here are some of that complete list of data structures. I'll send these notes. You can refer these notes. And there are some real life examples, like shopping list could be a list. Fixed GPS location, like GPS has lat and long, that can be stored as tuple. Class roll numbers can be a set because you will not have duplicate roll numbers. Then contact book means what? Name and phone number and email address. So the name can be unique, and then you have phone number, email address, and all that can be a dictionary, right? So these are the data structures that you learned. And Python, mostly all the Python data structures, there was this table where you can see entire all of these get allocated in heap memory, because all of them are objects in Python. Whereas in languages like C, Java, a regular integer and all, they get allocated, the primitive types get allocated in stack memory. So I will share this notes and try these data structures with their pros and cons and their methods, and get used to them. And as we solve questions in our series, in this series, you will know when to use what data structures and why. I hope you like this lesson. If you're watching it on our mobile apps, please go and give us store reviews. If you are watching it on YouTube, please share your feedback, and please subscribe and like our content. And if you are watching this on our LMS platform, feel free to share your feedback and reviews on our LMS website. Thank you. Namaste. See you again in the next class.